So I'm gonna talk a bit more in depth about FI and FE because I really rushed it at the end of the last video on cognitive functions. Um, so FI is an internal network of feelings and emotions, and it's basically intrapersonal intelligence, which so anything to do with the self, being self-aware, but for that reason, INFPs and ISFPs who are FI DOMs can be very self-critical. People may see FI as being self-centered, and it is in that it looks within, and doesn't so much look out the way FE does, doesn't understand other people as well as it understands itself. The FE user, on the other hand, employs FE, which is an external mechanism by which they map out interpersonal relations. So basically, interpersonal intelligence, they know how to interact with other people, social butterflies a lot of the time. So ENFJ and ESFJ, the FE DOMs. But that also means that their understanding of themselves needs to be externally validated. So they need that affirmation for anything to do with themselves. And you can see with ENFJs and ESFJs, they're caregivers, very motherly figures. Always know what to say, how to take care of people, but they can neglect themselves for that reason. Always looking to help other people. FI and FE, the difference between them to me is kind of like the difference between psychology and sociology. So psychology is the study of the mind and behavior. So you don't really have to look out to be a psychologist. Looking within is enough, almost like using a microscope, really looking in depth into something, and within, and the inner workings of the mind. FE is not like that. The FE is very like a bird's eye view, like the big picture. Sociology looks at the interaction between the individual and the other. So yeah, really quite different. Yeah, so yeah, seemingly, similar related fields, but they really approach the same issues tackle them from a very different angle. And that brings me to the idea of empathy. FI and FE users empathize in very different ways. In fact, complete like mirror images of each other, FI and FE. So the FE user, the way they so an FE user will ask you how you are, how you're feeling. They figure out, they understand how other people feel by looking outwards, looking at the external signs and the data outside. So, if we take the definition of empathize, to understand, then that would be probably viewed as what empathy is. FE may be, FE would be viewed, or yeah, a lot of people will probably view FE as the more empathetic function. Fi does it in a very different way. Because you can't deny that Fi DOMs, INFP and ISFP are very compassionate. But really not in the way ENFJs and ESFJs are. Um, INFPs and ISFPs look within to understand how other people feel. So they ask, it triggers, um, them figuring out how other people feel triggers their own emotions and their own experiences. So they ask, they ask themselves or think to themselves how they themselves would feel in the other person's shoes. Um, so they look within. The ENFJ and ESFJ, though, will they don't they almost become the external world and become the other person. Um, Using the definition of extroversion, which is an attitude defining the self in accordance to the standards of the external world. You're almost going into the external world, whereas the introverted person, an attitude defining the external world in accordance to the standards of the self, the external world becomes the self. Um, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think so. Yes. The external world becomes how they feel. Yeah. So, but both are empathetic. Fi will be more emotional, and felt on a visceral level, or I can't say more emotional, but emotional in the sense that they feel, um, because it taps into their own experiences and their own feelings, it will resonate with them very strongly. And for that reason, when an Fi Dom believes in something, they will hold to that belief, almost religiously, because um, of whatever pain or emotions it evokes. Um, and I'm gonna leave it there. I don't have any more ideas about it, but hopefully that made sense. Maybe. And I'll see you next time. Bye.